meeting for June 2nd. And the first thing is we have approval of minutes for April 28th and the approval of minutes for April 28th executive session. I see Member Coates is to a first and Member Daly is the second. Any questions, adjustments, modifications on the minutes? All right, seeing none, please vote. All right. All right, that passes. Thank you very much. I'd like to take a second to acknowledge a board member's granddaughter, Malia. So Member Duncan's got her granddaughter in from Texas. Would you want to come up here and say hello, or maybe you can come up here and run the meeting? I'm sure you've got that. So welcome, Malia. We'll give you a spot right in the front row. Glad to have you here and visiting. I know you were here, I think, last year with your grandmother, right? All right. Fourth time. Wow. What grade are you in? Here, we'll let you speak there.
I was in fourth grade, but now I'm going to fifth grade.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. You can stay up here for the meeting unless you really get bored, and then feel free to depart. Not the building, because I don't think your grandmother would let you leave the building. All right. So she can't wander off. No, no, no. She's here as a volunteer. You're here on a paid assignment, so no. All right. Oh, good. We will have three informational items, the typical ones, and the first one is the workforce reports. And I'll have Angela tee that up and make some comments on it.
Okay, good afternoon. Our workforce report, this is the report that we report out every 6 months. So the last time you saw this had October 25 data. So now we're looking at April 2025. Again, this is the same structure of the report that you're used to seeing. So again, that top third shows our applicants as well as the departments that had openings, compares those to the 2025 applicants compared to 2026, and then also our new hires. In the middle, you'll see our demographics as well as our gender and race and ethnicity demographics. And then the bottom third are the separations based on department, kind of who's had the most turnover in this month. So happy to answer any questions.
I'll let the committee see if they have questions regarding these data points. Malia's taking them in up here, so she may have a whole bunch of questions, like why did you use the color blue and orange? But we'll just leave that alone. Any questions from the committee on this workforce reports? Are we, as a committee, we've done this now, we've kind of changed the schedule of this report to quarterly. And is this a quarterly one, right?
This one is every 6 months.
6 months, sorry. Because monthly it wasn't changing a lot, and so we thought we'd just do every 6 months. If you have feedback you want to share now, or if you want to speak to me on another point, let me know pros and cons of how it's working. With that, we will move to the next report, and this is the vacancy snapshot. Angela?
Okay, this is the one that is reported out quarterly. So the green column to the far right, those two is the January data that was reported out. So then we're comparing that to our filled and vacant positions for April 2026.
Any questions on the vacancy report? I think it's good that we're seeing some, I'll say, stabilization. Some of the public safety and justice departments, our sheriff's office, state's attorney seem to be stabilizing the roller coaster that they were on for a while of a lot of vacancies. That's a good thing. That means we're getting staffed and we're providing good support for our community. All right, with that, we will move to the third item. And the third item is going to be presented by our CIO, Mr. Mark Little, and this is a topic for discussion this month and for a future month for bringing forward for a board approval. It's with the AI being what it is today, there's a lot of details. Mark will walk us through, and please, if you haven't had time to read it, give it some good thought. If you see things and hear things, please ask, stop, ask questions. That's why we do the informational, so everybody has at least a good starting point. So that, I'm going to turn it to Mr. Little.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hopefully you had a chance to read the white paper I put in your agenda for today. I kind of expanded that out and brought some more detail forward from the last couple of weeks when I turned that in, and we'll go through that today. And the chairman asked me to come forward and kind of give an overview, beginning with a little education and then a little bit on where we at in Peoria County and what we're just starting to see in the use of generative AI within the county, and then kind of a plan moving forward to secure that. So to start off, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. And if you see in the media, watch on the news, we're going to talk a little bit about the use of generative AI today. Some of the common platforms you'll hear is ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and Claude. That basically transcribes, synthesizes, and takes data that you put in through media and prompting and provides you information. We're seeing that widely used within the organization, which you will see here shortly. The issue with that is that a lot of the models that are being used within the organization are what are called public consumer models. That allows the vendor to really extract the inputs that's being put into it and train its language model. And where that comes into an issue is that it has an exposure of sensitive records within the organization being fed into that. Now, there's a way around that. We'll talk about that. There's what we call government models that really don't do that. And so I'm not going to dig into the actual tools today. I really want to talk about what it looks like in our organization today and what we really have to do to kind of wrap our arms around that, put a wrapper around it, put guardrails up, and still allow our employees to utilize those tools to work in a more efficient manner, but to make sure that we don't allow any data accidentally out there that we don't want. So this number looks kind of large when you first look at it. We have a tool that we've used for years called Cisco Umbrella that tracks all our traffic in and out of the organization. Earlier this year, they came out with some new tools built within that allow us actually to look at specifically use of generative AI in the organization. And for the month of April, there were 294,522 AI connection requests to some type of generative AI software. That doesn't mean there was 295 users interacting, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background that come natural in applications today. But we'll break that out in a couple more slides. And the thing is, that's currently open. We're not controlling that at the moment. You'll see a couple little things going on that we've blocked due to some security reasons, but right now that's openly being used. And most of those are openly being used because they're web accessible. You can get on the website and access those. You can use your phone, you can use your iPad. We do have the ability through Cisco Umbrella though to stop those commercial versions of that if necessary. As you break that out, we break it down. The reports we review, 238,000 of those are actually from user-specific logins. What that means is that those are users who have logins within our organization and log into our network. The other 56,000 are coming across our wireless network on the guest side. So we have that throughout all our facilities, and we can see who the users are that are using it, the date, the timing, and even can sort it by building and department, which is very interesting. So that's just to give you a little more information on those numbers. This kind of breaks it down. If we start at the top, we look at it kind of breaks it down by the pieces of software being utilized. Top one being utilized is Microsoft 365 Copilot. If you really dig into what that is, that's actually the paid version, but that's not the largest use version because there's a lot of background, what they call technical noise that goes on in the background. Every time somebody logs into a Microsoft product, it goes out and uses Copilot to update itself and do some background. We actually have 10 licenses of Copilot, so those 10 users are not creating all that. That's stuff that goes on in the background. Next one, OpenAI ChatGPT, very popular today among the language models, and you can see we've got, that's number 2. The next one is Microsoft Copilot, which is actually a free version that everybody has access to within the organization. Because we're in the government cloud, any information within that is not shared, but it does not have the capabilities as the paid version. The next one is Frax.io. That's a product that's actually used by our web host folks, Civics Plus, that does searching, that's whitelisted. That goes on every day. Google Gemini. Then the next one is called Beyond Words. If you really dig into what that is, that on the surface, it really can take and move text-based to audio-based information. But if you also dig in, there's a lot of websites that use that for streaming audio or video information. The next one is Claude. We have a few people using that. That gets lots of press these days, and a couple more less used ones. So the proposed governance I've put up, if you want to look through that, some of those come in what we call the government form that we could purchase and allow people to utilize and to control those updates. And the other ones we need to investigate a little more on how they're used. Like the Beyond Words one, that's basically, from what I can find, 3 or 4 users that are using that, and we've got to specifically find out what they're using that. Any questions?
Member Daley?
So explain to me, in this 295,000 users, if I come in here and I have my iPhone and it has Outlook on it and it has Chat GPT and I access something, am I counted then as a user?
You're not logged in, but you're counted as one of the users from the 56,314, the guest and background.
Okay, so and if I have my county email on my phone, then that is also counted.
Depends on how you're logged in, but it's not you're not logged into the Chat GPT side of things. It's only if you're logging into that device with your username and password. Most of the iPhone type things go around that through the website of things.
Say that again, please.
Most of the Outlook side of the iPhone, like you're using on the portability side of things, that's not going to get reported in here because we're not monitoring that piece. It's the specific applications that we're keeping an eye on.
Okay, but if you do come into this room and you hook up to Wi-Fi, then you are being monitored if you log into one of these.
We monitor everybody.
Right.
Yes, across
That's
the organization, whether it's somebody on the guest side and all over, we can report those numbers.
right. But I just think a lot of people are not aware that when they come in here and sit down, if they have these things, they're being monitored.
Yes,
Um,
that's not uncommon. That's across any organization.
and then what about when I go home and have the same situation, since I have the chat GPT and Outlook on my phone?
We are not monitoring you at home. We're only monitoring the traffic from here.
So you can't monitor my phone at home?
Not the way we are set up today. There are potential software and tools that we can tighten that up from the home side, but not today.
And then another question I have is, for example, when I'm at work and I have an email, AI always suggests an answer. I never use those. We only do original things that we've created. Is that the sort of situation that you're counting in the 295,000?
Those are interactions, yes, within the full version. If you interact with those and do that, that's going to count.
But I don't interact with it. It
Then
comes.
I don't believe it's going to count that.
You don't think so, or it's not?
I'm not going to answer you that yes or no directly because there's a lot of what they call micro conversations that go on in the background. That what Microsoft does to exchange that daily. That's the reason that number we saw of 140 some thousand. There's only 10 users actually within that group, but there's that number is not that great enough to offset that. So it could be back and forth there, but I don't believe it counts directly.
Well, but I mean, I'm confused. If you don't know, then does somebody else in the department know?
I just go by the data reports by the person. I would have to go in and see directly from a login point if that interaction was logged, but I don't have control over what Microsoft talks in the background on a daily basis back and forth for updates. We don't keep all that. That's millions and millions of hits back and forth throughout the day that Microsoft does back and forth.
Well, I mean, I certainly think there needs to be a policy, absolutely. But I guess that when you use a number like 295,000, it sort of hints at, oh my God, we have a crisis here. So that's why I want to understand and what you're counting.
Okay.
I'll maybe add some thoughts. I think if you go onto a mapping software, so if you happen to be on your county-owned device and you need to travel to point A to B, you can say, okay, I want to put the address into that. If it's Google's mapping or Apple's, that uses AI in the background. So you're going to immediately hit with probably multiple hits called AI, correct, Mark? Simple tools that we would use every day all have AI, not all, but a lot of them have AI algorithms embedded in it.
We are seeing that increasing on Google, yes.
So it's not like you're going to Claude, if you want to be the American version, not like you're going to Claude and saying, please write me a report for my homework because I don't want to do my homework. Don't listen to me, boy.
She would never do that.
It's any interaction with almost any software, any application on your device, on your anything electronic, you're going to trigger probably an AI application in the background. That's how we get to these 295,000 in a month. But I want to, Member Blair, you had your hand up.
Thanks. I did read through the white paper. What percentage of our current employees do you think understand that putting information into ChatGPT or Claude could put the county at risk? since we don't currently have a policy and I don't know what the training is yet.
Right. And then part of coming out of this is really to develop an acceptable use policy and training around it. Like I said, it's only been a few months now we've been able to gather this data. So, I mean, last fall we didn't have the tools to gather it. What happened is the software got ahead of the tools for us to be able to see what was going on. And those tools are being developed right now. We've got multiple meetings coming up with vendors for even more tools coming out on how we get our arms wrapped around that. And my guess is we've got a small percentage using it. If we would sort my name, I mean, I can put it down to names, departments, and from that. And I didn't share that information specifically, but we have that data, and it's a specific group of people that
Right.
it's not a huge number, but it's across the board. It's from the judicial side to jail to, there's all different backgrounds and folks that are using the tools out there.
And I guess that's my biggest concern right now is, just to give an example, a hypothetical example, someone in the health department decides to use Claude to help them with some analysis, and it happens to have non-anonymized data in it. Claude could be or Anthropic could be reading that.
I have an example of that coming
up. Oh, is it coming up?
Yes.
So yeah, these are the concerns I have, and even if there was some kind of, quick blast to people to make sure that they're aware of that, because I know I talk to people who aren't aware that any data you put into these things, unless we have protected it,
right.
It puts us at risk, and certainly using the health department one could be even a HIPAA violation. So,
and I will say it's a challenge that all municipalities are having on how we wrap our arms around this. I was with my peer group 2 or 3 weeks ago in Champaign. There's about 15 of us from different counties, from very large collar counties to smaller counties than us. And there's not a single one of those counties that have yet to release a policy around, because they're all struggling in that fact. And Ben said, oh, there, he was with me. I think we are finally getting ahead of that game. And so I think we're on our way there. It's been a challenge on how you wrap your arms around it, and it's a little bit different from cybersecurity, controlling, from keeping people out. Now we got to figure out how we're going to protect our data and our users internally. So, and the tools just haven't been there. Yeah. So, but now the tools are there, and we're seeing it, and we're able to put that specific information together.
And I totally get that technology moves faster than policy. I understand that. I just, even something as simple as a did you know, that hopefully a certain percentage of our employees read as an email blast might be helpful, or a please use these, or if you use these certain ones, did you know that public information could be being scraped on that? Not public information, non-public information could be scraped on that. So I guess that's my real worry right now.
Okay. Member Phelan, you had your hand up for a question.
There's more to the presentation, right?
Did you want to let them continue through?
Yeah,
no, this is good. This is why we wanted to spend time today on this. Not that we will solve it today, because Mark would love it if we did. And because tomorrow, agentic AI would be the next topic. So with that, Mark, please continue.
All right. So we've already mitigated a few things. One of the areas we had big concerns over in talking with also the state's attorney's office, there are AI bots that are available out there that whenever you're on a Zoom meeting, a Teams meeting, or any other type of meeting, that people think they are available just to capture that information and do summaries. Well, those bots are also storing that information and potentially uploading those to the language models. So we have blocked a few of those that we've been able to find. Those are no longer allowed in the organization. We use Teams as a standard, and Teams is built into the government cloud. And we do record those meetings and summarize those meetings, but those are all kept in our government cloud Microsoft side of things and are not uploaded to the language model, the commercial version. We've also found 3 requests. DeepSeek is a Chinese-based model. Those have been blocked. Any of those that have been created, we try to block those as soon as we can. So that's the stuff that we've blocked that we've based upon from a criticality point that's been blocked at this point. So this is just a little more deeper into what I was talking about before, that Copilot shows a telemetry log volume of 145,000 requests, but we only have actually 10 pilot users in use right now within that. They really don't, if you go back and look at those, they really don't match the metrics to human type messages. I mean, some of those exchanges are happening, multiple exchanges a seconds through some of these machines, and it's just Microsoft updating itself. And from the public Wi-Fi standpoint. So here's where we talk about risk, where you brought up about healthcare risk. I've got 2 or 3 different areas here. First of all, within the judicial side, we're seeing use on the judicial side. There's potential litigation briefs, transcripts, legal drafts, and other pieces that are potentially exposed if people are actually accessing those and putting those out there. I mean, it's pretty simple. You can take information in a report and upload it to it and have it create charts for you, create all kinds of different things. And once that's done on the commercial side, it has fed the language model, and then it's there, and you're not going to get it back. So this is what I talked about in the beyond words usage. We're seeing that among a small group of people. The concern with that is people are utilizing converting written text, case reports or stuff, and then putting those in an audio format that could be going out there, and that could be updated. Member Valaire mentioned protected health data. That's what this slide goes into, and the potential exposure from that side. And then the phrase.io is the anomaly that we found within our Civics Plus, and confirmed that our Civics Plus website uses this in the background to be searching for information. So there is AI going on within those searches now. This is all legitimate usage. And the meeting interceptors that we have already stopped. And you also have the right, and I've been telling people, I mentioned this on the team meeting the other day, we spend a lot of time with vendors on external calls, external meetings, and a lot of those now are asking, do we want it to be recorded? You have the right to deny those being recorded, and we'll remind people of that. So just because they want to record it doesn't mean they can. So there's a couple other usage for what is defined as document aggregators. These are a couple things we got to dig into. These are platforms that allow people to upload bulk amounts of data and store that on the website of thing. I don't know why you'd be doing this, but we've got this narrowed down to a couple folks, and we'll reach out to them to see the purpose behind these. There's also compliance. There's governance in Illinois statutes that inputting citizen PII information, social security numbers, that's a breach of disclosure laws. FOIA, if you look at FOIA, actually the prompts that you put into a large language model software is FOIAable. We have no way of tracking those within the commercial versions. We do if we convert to the government versions. So from a priority side, as we take a look at what we need to focus on, these are more of a recommendation. We kind of shifted over from that side. We really must look at justification for the use on the AI side and move that into those government models. Many of the tools that are being used today out there, there are government models available. You have to purchase them, and then those can be centrally managed. We can assign those to individuals who justify that side of it. There's a cost to that, like I said. We've got one in test right now, and that's the Microsoft Copilot one. Actually, our treasurer is here. He's one of the test subjects for that. I'm allowing him to test that. And we are also just purchased the Google Gemini suite, which is, we got 10 licenses coming to test it also. We really need to expand the Cisco umbrella side of things to separate off the guest side of it. My recommendation is we don't want to block those who are guests within the organization. You could have attorneys who have GPT licensing that maybe that are on the commercial side that we don't want to block, but they're using within the courts, within the building. And we're going to look into utilizing Cisco umbrella to kind of to parse those out and separate those pieces so those two sides come together. This is more about strategic governance and the next step. Part of my proposal is that we put an AI governance structure together. So take a, and I would lead that, and we would reach out to the elected side and the appointed side and put a group together that really can examine this a little closer. We need a way to where somebody can come forward with the justification. I really don't want to be the person that allows that justification that says whether that person can have that tool or not. I think it's better from a governance structure, and I think that would help in moving that forward and allow a group of folks to really understand that a little more closely. The other thing we need to look at is on the defense side, there's new tools out there that are available. We've got a couple of meetings set up. There's a tool, we use CrowdStrike for endpoint protection today on the cyber side. CrowdStrike has a new tool that actually monitors language model use in those applications. And if you go in and either upload sensitive information or you put in a prompt that puts sensitive information in, it blocks it. It has a limit. Those are brand new tools. They're just out new. We haven't had a chance to test them yet, but we've got some meetings set up to take a look at those a little closer. So, future going forward. Of course, the recommendation I have going forward, we don't have to fund it in the 2026 budget, but there is funding out there available we can utilize out of the IT fund balance for this. We really need to look at something on the side of like the CrowdStrike software to keep track of our endpoints and what people are entering. That's designed to block copy and paste into links containing record strings or any type of data. This is under research, it's unfunded, but it really comes down to a per user licensing cost, the way these are done by user. The other side of that is a product that we started looking at last year and continue to look at is something called Microsoft Purview. You know, we're really talking about data here, and really if you really go back and look at the proper way to do this, you need to really understand what's in your data. Some numbers we recently looked at is beyond our databases that we store data in that run our application, we have about 7 million files in our storage and within our network here for about 17 terabytes of information. Even though we protect that internally through rights, we don't know what is in that data in those files. There could be healthcare information, there could be social security information, all the different information that needs to be protected. Microsoft has had a product now that they combined with a few other pieces of product called Purview. That actually runs in the background, goes through and scans those 7 million documents and classifies that data that's in those documents so that when you pull up that document, you know what kind of data is in there. It also gives you the ability to, when you save a document, requires you to put what type of data is in there. You can even encrypt that data. Basically, it tells you what's laying in that 7 million files on a data that's out there to keep a little more protection of that. That, of course, has a cost behind it, and it's not inexpensive. It's another user-based cost. We've also got more meetings set up to dig into that a little deeper also. There are government alternatives for the language models. M365 Copilot, which is very popularly used and really works well within the Microsoft realm of their software. That's the icons you'll see. Example, remember Daly talked about when you're in Outlook and allow allows you to either take what it's written and improve that, or help you write from that point. It allows you to help in creating Word documents, assistance in Excel, PowerPoint, and all those. Those that are built in is the paid version. That runs about $30 a month per user, I think is the cost right now. So that's almost as much as we pay for the full license of Microsoft 365. You start doing the math on that, and it gets very expensive. Gemini also has a government version. That version I'm a Gemini user. I've been using Gemini for a couple of years. I like it a lot more than Copilot. It does a lot more, allows me to analyze data a little more, allows me to be a lot more creative. And I think the interesting thing is that these are all changing very quickly. I think it's weekly that you see a new version of somebody's coming out. So this week, this person moves to the top. The next week, the next person moves to the top. So we do have options, and we can provide those tools, but there's a cost to those tools. A little bit about the governance and oversight. What I'm proposing is the AI Council. Really, it would allow us as a group and a representation across the county to put together a group that really looks at the justification side of it. What tools should we be looking at, or what tools can we recommend back to this committee and to the board that we purchase? Also put some safety in place, training. And the most important you'll always see in this, that you'll see mentioned all the time, is the human in the loop protocols. That makes sure that it doesn't matter what you create, what you do, there's always a human in the loop that takes a look at that. And from also if you look from the side, from the acceptable use policies, from the education side, this group would be involved in helping develop that, keep that updated. And I think it would be great if that group came back at least annually or twice a year to update this committee or the board, just to kind of see where we're at and where things are developing. I've kind of already been through this already.
Okay, a lot of content. Malia's starting to roll her eyes back here,
I'm
trying to
almost
figure out all these words. So,
all right, I'm getting
all right.
So this is all going to take dollars to implement, and I don't see it any different as we do on the cyber side today. We spend hundreds of thousands of dollars protecting our information on the cyber side. This is just going to add right on top of that. We're going to have to protect our information from AI. One of my proposals I have is that we look at creating an AI fund for the next 2 years. No different than we create an ERP fund or another type of fund, put an X amount of dollars in it, and dedicate that for the next couple of years to begin the process. We do have the available funding in the IT fund balance to do that. I'll keep moving here. I can share this. So I actually shortened this up by about 10 slides from my written. There's the board reporting side that I have from the governance side. My recommendation on moving forward on creating a fund and putting a group together, and the governance structure to move forward. I think that's it.
Okay, a lot of content. I'm going to ask the committee. Mr. Phelan, we had you earlier. Do you have questions, or we overwhelmed you now with things that you want to ask?
No, I've been anxiously waiting to speak. I did get told over here that I need to be brief.
That's that peer support. It's really good.
I think I'm most curious, and I know Scott sits on NACO's AI committee, and I know in the industry you guys have probably had a lot of conversations about this, but my most important question is, at what point in time does someone become so reliant on the tool that our employee is the AI? My largest concern when you talk about not knowing who to choose and you not wanting to be responsible for choosing who gets a license is that someone could potentially use AI nonstop to the point that we don't really have a actually qualified person in that position. So I'm curious how you make that delineation.
I think that's very interesting. There's actually a new version, I believe, of Claude coming out that, from what I've read last, is that they're kind of holding back on it because it's very much too human-like. I still think as a manager, I look at it no different than we manage access to the internet. It used to be we managed every piece of access to the internet, everything everybody did in that, and that just became too great from an IT perspective to do that. So we really rely on the management to manage their people, and I think we do that on this side also. You've got to have some oversight in that. We've got to be able to train people in its use. We're still in the really early stages of this, and it's developing. Is in the paper I put out, every 3 to 6 months, it's changing so quickly. So what we're talking about today, if I come back to speak to you in 3 to 6 months, it could be a little different. So I don't know if I answered your question completely, but
Not necessarily. I mean, my biggest concern is that, we talk about picking and choosing a few people who will need licenses. And
right.
I have a larger concern that we're going to end up buying a license for everyone. And then we're going to have somebody that is relying on this tool every day to complete work that they are not qualified to complete or can't complete themselves. I mean, I look at this as dumbing down our workforce.
Right.
I know there's benefits to AI, and I know that it is and can be used as a tool, but I have a genuine concern that we have employees that will utilize it more than what they probably should. And when, like, you have somewhere in your slides, you had that a blanket ban won't work because we're so far behind in this is my perspective. I mean, I think if you mentioned you've been using Gemini for 2 years, we should have been talking about this 2 years ago. We should have already had a policy in place that protected us, so we weren't talking about buying licenses for all of our employees. I mean, I picture like a high-level employee, somebody that's constantly putting out slides or infographics or things like that. I know our treasurer. I assume the picture that was by the elevator was designed by AI. And when you're doing stuff like that, I mean, I think there's value in it, but I have a genuine concern that our employees are going to be like, to Linda's point, how should I respond to this email? And you lose that human interaction in government. And that's when people really lose faith in who they're talking to behind the computer. And so that's one of my largest concerns with this discussion and where we will be in a couple of years. And how much it's going to cost us. If we pay an employee $70,000 a year to do a job, I don't want to think that we're going to have to pay another $20 a month for that employee to actually do their job. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think we've had lots of discussions about this. If you really look at our employees, we have people who process things, and we have people who are creative. I see this more on the creative side, on the generative AI side. Now, there's the automation side. That's a completely separate discussion on how do we automate processes. I mean, there's AI automation processes going into a lot of our Tyler software we use today. And that'll be up to us whether we decide to adopt those and pay for those or we don't. That's a completely separate side of this. But on the generative side, and I agree with you, I really see it on those who, it's great for creating and it's great for analyzing data. So
I just picture too, like the total compensation letter that we send out at the end of the year is going to include the $20 fee that it costs for AI, because that's truly what we're investing back in that employee to make sure that they put out quality work. But I have a concern it's not going to be quality because of the hallucinations and all the stuff coming from AI that is not accurate. The only other thing that I do want to bring up is in talking with you through email and talking with Scott, I keep hearing that we might buy or look at a couple different models. I understand each model sort of has its own benefit. I really would ask that we look at 2 or 3 and everything else put a blanket ban on, and you have 2 or 3 to manage them, because right now there's so many models out there that we don't know what's being uploaded. We don't know what data we're leaking out of the county right now. And that's a genuine concern of mine, especially looking at Tazewell County and what they just went through. This is kind of, I don't want to say scary stuff, but it kind of is when you your role is to ensure that all of our data we have and hold secure. And right now you're here saying that we don't really know what's being uploaded. And that's a little bit scary to me. So I would fully support any investment in IT that gives us the ability to understand what data is being uploaded, what is being discussed on those models, isolate a few different models and move forward. But I think a policy is really important to put into place now, not down the road. I think we need to have a policy that allows managers, anyone in the department, directors, department heads to actually follow up on their employees and ensure that we're not uploading data. We know that today, so I can't understand why that wouldn't be a policy today or by the end of the week, or however long it takes to create that. But I really think it's important that we put that into place as soon as possible, not when we decide to roll out this whole plan. I think you can get the policy out today and adapt it as you guys meet and discuss everything that's going on. Last thing I had to add is that in conversation, I also mentioned, and I don't know if you've looked into it, but Perplexity is a software that gives you access to multiple models under one single subscription. It's compliant. They claim on their website that they're compliant with the federal government. I don't know if that means they are at local level as well, but I would like to see us buy a single subscription, not multiple different kinds. That sounds like a lot to manage. That sounds like it's going to make it harder for us to track what that expense actually is year over year.
Okay, good insight. Obviously, we have different levels of experience, and Member Phelan's dug into it, which I really appreciate. Member Blair, do you have a quick? I knew, Mark, we're going to run short on time, but we're good. This is a good topic.
I swear I'll be quick, Camille. I swear. The only thing, I talked to Scott about this last week as well, and we're already hearing departments saying things like, hey, we could automate these things for $150,000 and get rid of an employee that cost us $70,000. And I think this is a policy thing that the board needs to look at. If we're replacing humans with a possibly hallucinating AI system that costs twice as much, I think we need to be thinking about that.
That's a good point. I know one of the departments, I won't call them out at this point, is looking at automating. And I mean, I've had a good discussion with them, and but some of the exact same questions you shared are the ones that I put out there. It's like, but anyway, so with that, I guess I want to throw, you've talked about a council, a couple things come out of this. So Member Phelan's asking for a policy. I don't know what the timeline was. I know the whole goal here is to get the first policy in place. It'll be, I'll say, a dynamic policy because this stuff is changing so fast. But the sooner we get started with some logical policy with the ability to come back and adjust it as necessary, that's probably one of the first things. And I don't know, Mark, what would your timeline be to come at the first round of a policy?
I have one drafted already. I knew that was coming, so yeah. I've been working on that. I guess we need to look at how do you want it to go through before it even gets here, or do you want to? I mean, we can bring that forward. I'm sure it's got to go through the legal side, the HR side of things. But no, I have a generative AI acceptable use policy in draft.
Yeah. So you mentioned a council of specific employees, governance council, but maybe even beyond governance council to help review, bring forward with your IT department. I know you mentioned our treasurer's one that's got a license, and we know he does have a lot of background. So I would ask you to leverage and work with him on the experience and others. So it's a journey, but we can't take a long time, right?
Right.
We have to get moving. So I'm going to cut this one because we have a agenda item. We do need to go through a resolution. So with this, we have one resolution, professional services agreement with Barry Dunn for Tyler Cashiering implement oversight. I need put it on the floor. All right, Member Coates and Member Duncan is the second. So Mark, this is yours to present.
So this is the first stage in what we would be the implementation of a standard cashiering package across the county. Following our ERP implementation, which was the Tyler ERP system, we had budgeted in that project for a standardized cashiering system. So last year, if you recall, we brought in Barry Dunn to do a study on all our departments that brought in dollars on a daily basis. And we found there were 15 different models of receipting going on across the county, with many of those using spreadsheets and manual processes to do that process. So I was given direction to take that study to move forward, and part of that was that since we run a lot of the Tyler products, we'd originally, like I said, budgeted for their cashiering product. That is what the recommendation came from Barry Dunn. So this is the first step in that implementation. From a budgetary standpoint, we do have an ERP fund that all the ERP dollars that were originally allocated are in, that is currently managed by IT. There's about 435,000 and some odd dollars. That should, crossing my fingers, I think that'll be more than enough to get this implemented. And this is the first stage of that, which is to sit down with Tyler, go through, get the agreement for the cashiering, and then also I would then bring that approval back to you, and this also covers the assistance of Barry Dunn with that implementation.
Okay. So, I mean, cashiering's been a topic. I know a few of us had discussions with Mark and other departments on, handling the money, handling the cash, having a consistent way. We don't have issues with fraud, but we want to make it clear, easy to audit, and easy to manage. And so I think this is a good step forward. Any questions from committee members? Member Daly.
I just have one question. In reading over the feasibility study, one of the things that's very disturbing to me is that several times it's mentioned that Tyler support is delayed, slow, and unreliable. So I guess I'm always concerned about why we are spending all this money, and yet when people that use this technology have an issue, they're not getting the support they need.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. Was that the report in our packet this time or prior? Okay. I think that's a good topic to hit on. We'll ask Mark to look at, maybe come back on a future discussion, because we do buy software from Tyler. We do buy services from consultants. We need to make sure we're making the best use of county taxpayer funds, and we're providing quality service for all of our employees, which is huge. So Mark will capture that, and if you need to have a more discussion with Member Daly, I ask you to have a sideline discussion, make sure we captured it correctly for our future. So I need any other questions. If not, we'll put this up to vote. Oh, Member Alsasser.
It seems like every few months we're spending a couple more 100,000 or 2 or 3 or 400,000 to try to protect ourselves, and knowledge is increasing so fast in our society. It'll probably bankrupt us in 10 years if we vote for all these things. So I won't be supporting this. I'm just tired of spending money to protect ourselves again for this thing and that thing, and I won't be supporting this.
Okay, I appreciate your comments, and that's a very real concern because, we could be, as I remember Phelan, we could be the subjects of AI or technology and not doing our jobs, and technology will cost the taxpayer more than they should. But thank you for your input, and I understand your position. Any other comments? Okay, I'll ask for a vote. Okay, so we have, all right. So we have one abstention, Member Daley. We have one nay, Member Elsasser, and the other members are voting in favor. So it does pass with the votes. So I thank you there. We'll quickly move into public comment. Anybody here have public comments? Okay, if not, miscellaneous. Any of the committee members have a miscellaneous topic they want to bring forward? All right. I would like to, under miscellaneous, bring forward an example of operational excellence within the county. So I'm going to ask two of our employees to come up and be recognized for operational excellence. So I'll come around front with the microphone and like to introduce them. So if Treasurer Martin would come forward and CFO McCord. So, see if I can do this. I'm plugging myself. This is good. So, those who were in Member Duncan's Ways and Means Committee yesterday know what we're speaking of. But we always talk about operating excellence. We have a great example, in my opinion, of operational excellence that's taken place here at the county. We like to highlight that. So the treasurer's office, no secret to anyone's, had a need with demand in that for additional manpower support to conduct the work of the treasurer. And that's been a topic we've talked about. We, as several board and committee members, have discussed with the treasurer. And then we said, well, how can you be creative with it? At the same time, CFO McCord has had an opportunity. She had a member or an employee retire, which created an opening and allows her to reorganize her workflow. Apologize, I sound like Phil now. Her workflow and make it more productive. Now, Member McCord could have said, you know, I'm going to hoard that. I'm going to hang on to that FTE because you never know, I may need it. But she worked with Treasurer and Martin, and they came up with a solution that passed in Ways and Means to transfer the FTE and the budget for that FTE from the finance office to the treasurer's office. So it's an internal working together across departments to find a good solution to serve the public. So I'd like to ask them to have any additional comments.
No, I appreciate this. Not why I did it, but I do appreciate it. I just think both Treasurer Martin and I saw an opportunity to keep everything budget neutral and FTE neutral and work together to solve a problem.
Yes, thank you very much. Working with CFO has been absolutely amazing, and I'm telling you, the Treasury Department really needs that extra FTE. It's going to make a world of a difference. We touch a lot of departments within the county, and I think it's important for everybody sitting around this horseshoe to understand that, you know, we need to make sure we're fully staffed because we are getting burnout over there. And great ideas working together, and everybody in the whole county has been great to work with so far. So it's been a good almost year.
Well, thank you. Give them a hand for the great work. So now that I've taken the first 5 minutes of the next committee, we'll move along and Miss Malia will adjourn the meeting for us. So all you need to do is say meeting adjourned to the microphone. Meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned.
All right, thank you.